Welcome to Charts Today. My name's David Linton, and today's edition for Monday, the 20th of March, comes to you from London. And we've had the Credit Suisse debacle, UBS taking over Credit Suisse on the weekend, lots of noise about debt going around the markets, the bank debt, and the big question is, what will the Federal Reserve do this week? It's interest rate decision time. Will they raise, sit, or cut? I asked this question 10 days ago, and the consensus was over 50% of people said that interest rates in the US would go to 6% or higher. What a difference 10 days makes. Now the market, I put another poll out this morning, and it's evenly split really between no change and a cut. So the market's now waiting to see what the Federal Reserve will do. We'll put those poll results out on my LinkedIn page tomorrow morning. But the interesting thing is, will he raise, sit, or cut? And we're all eyes. Of course, the ECB raised last week, so that was quite bold now, looking at it. And we've got the Bank of England decision coming a day after the Federal Reserve decision. They must be really pleased to be making their decision a day after the Federal Reserve. So all eyes on what the central banks do. And of course, today they've been pumping money into the banking system. So we are seeing a real change of sentiment in the markets. But let's look at what the charts are telling us, because that's really the most important thing. We'll take a look, first of all, at currencies. Then we'll look at the stock indices globally, look at some commodities, and last of all we'll focus on energy. So we start by looking at the dollar index. I'm running here on Refinitiv Icon. Of course, you can run Updata on lots of different data services, over a few dozen different data services, and you just plug in on top. So I've got my weekly, my daily, and my 60-minute cloud with the corresponding point and figure charts and the targets. And so we see here the dollar is really on the cloud. It found cloud support on the weekly, then hit cloud resistance on the weekly, and back on cloud support. So it's really key now. Will we make a new higher high above 105, or will we make a lower low below 100 and put the price below the cloud on the weekly? And we see here on the daily cloud, we're just wandering through, but we are hitting some resistance there, so really quite key. And down on the 60-minute chart, we're below the cloud. That's bearish. We've got a downside target, but we are finding some support there at that sort of 103 level. So really interesting to watch. And of course, we will see some volatility around that Federal Reserve interest rate announcement. And so looking at the euro, we see here they're actually bullish on the short term and testing resistance. So while the dollar was testing support, no surprises there. Sterling actually looking quite strong this morning, sitting at 122. Maybe the market is thinking the Fed won't raise and the UK will. We'll have to see. A lot depends on the banking sector, of course, and that's playing out over the next couple of days. So really quite interesting there. And if we look at Bitcoin, that's really rocketed. That's now at $28,000. We've got an upside target here to $50,000. That's some 78% higher. So we're seeing the Bitcoin bulls are back. Long term, we still have downside targets that have not yet been deactivated. We'd need new highs to do that. But for the moment, we're running, and we've got a short-term target to 29,800. If you're trading Bitcoin, you want to be looking at the 1-minute targets, looking at the real-time targets. Absolutely essential. Looking at the futures, we've got little or no change really on the US futures, so the market's really undecided as what it's going to do at the open. Looking at the Nasdaq on Friday as the cash market, we had a weekly bullish engulfing candle on the weekly chart. So we did see a recovery there and quite a strong showing, but really we are still below the cloud on those weekly charts. We are in a bear market on the long term. We just cannot ignore the fact that we're below the cloud there. We've got an upside target that would only be activated with a move above 12,900, say. So we've got work to do in order to look more bullish. And of course, markets will be very interesting to see what markets do. Interestingly, we've got the FTSE future up 1/3%. The DAX in Germany is actually up 0.5%. So taking this bad news into its stride. If you like, the fear factor was almost worse last week, and we are just seeing the charts taking it into account. But you saw the Japanese market down 1.5%, the Hang Seng down nearly 3%, and of course this has been bearish for quite some time. Looking at the Sensex in India, we're down 0.6%, and the Aussie market was pretty hard to hit, down 1.4%, and that has taken us below the cloud on the daily, starting to look less good there. We'll look at the energy mix in a minute. The big one, of course, is gold. That really jumped on Friday. There's the weekly candle for gold. We've hit that target of 1995. We have been above $2,000 for gold briefly this morning. That is the third time in history that gold has broken that $2,000 level. We haven't held on to it, but the fact is that's bullish on all three time frames. So gold looking extremely bullish, and silver, no big surprises, rising with gold as well. Not looking quite as bullish on the charts as gold, but still, of course, rising quite strongly off the back of what we're seeing in precious metals generally. And platinum, if we look at platinum, that's up 0.5%. So all these charts not quite as bullish as gold, because we're not above the cloud on the weekly the way gold is. Copper, that's back below $4. So just teetering with that $4 level, short-term bearish, but just holding its bull trend there on the medium term. And if we look at 10-year yields, these were very volatile last week, and we're likely to see more volatility with the Fed this week. We're sitting at 3.5% there. Really all eyes on what happens to interest rates there on the 10-year. Taking a look now at Brent Crude, we are down this morning. We called every product in energy this morning in our energy report, every product bearish, and that's very rare that you will see everything down, and all the trends and targets are given in the reports. You can sign up to these reports free. If you want to sign up, just let me know and we'll get you signed up. And so basically looking at the energy mix, bearish across the board. So Brent Crude down nearly 2%, making new lows there, unwinding those upside targets, and that's really a theme that we're seeing. US Nat Gas bucking the trend, that's up 2.6%, but still looks very bearish on the daily and the 60-minute chart. We do have some upside targets there on the 1 minute, so just looking a little bit better since we've traded a bit this morning. And looking at emissions, that has nudged 85 this morning, those downside targets, so we really are on a downtrend there on the 60-minute, and again we will be unwinding some of these upside targets now, so that's really going to be quite key. Keep an eye on your point and figure charts. Looking at TTF, we were below 40 at one point this morning, so really quite significant. Well, we didn't actually, we just nudged on 40 this morning, so we've just held that 40 level, did tick below it, but that's going to be critical. Can we hold 40? Looks like we won't. We've got downside targets into the 30s, and we've had this downside target at 39.86 hanging over us for quite a long time now, and 37.05, that's been there for a while, and on these charts. So the downside targets are there. They've just been met. No great surprises. The same with MBP. We're sinking lower there. We've got downside targets. We're below the 100 mark for the first time since July 2021, so really quite significant. A year and a half lows, and again hitting these targets. So 95.45 was given. Those were given back in early February, and that's where we're going. And we've got these short-term 1 minute targets. If you're trading gas, you really want to be watching those targets. And last of all, if we look at German power, we see here that we've got again downside targets. That 130 euro mark is really important on the CAL. That was the low that we saw a few weeks ago, 2 weeks ago. Again, we've just got to watch that level, but we do have downside targets lower. So really, we're seeing sentiment just very negative really on anything about global demand. So that's affecting energy prices, which will be a relief for a lot of people. And so we see here the markets really at the moment taking what we've seen and heard in their stride. It's what we don't know is probably the really big thing. But keep an eye on those charts, especially the 1 minute targets if you're trading any of those things. That's it for today. All eyes on that Federal Reserve data. Don't forget that I'm going to put the results of that poll up first thing tomorrow on LinkedIn, so we can front run what the market thinks ahead of the Fed decision. That's it for today. Until tomorrow, hang in there. Happy charting. Bye for now.